Hey guys, so Lord here, back in with another action figure review. Today, I am very excited to be taking a look at the Image Comics Founders Elite Edition Shadowhawk from, and please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but Jim Valentino, as well as the fine folks over at McFarlane Toys, because not for nothing, this kicks the crap out of the Lich King, like, by a country mile. The joints, much better quality, more accessories, and just all around more fun to mess around with. So let's cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look, see at all Mr. Hawk has to offer in terms of accessories. He's got a collectible trading card. The bio of Jim Valentino on the back, but if you're not in the know, Shadowhawk has AIDS. Why, you might ask? I don't know, I guess it just sucks to be him, but as far as I know, he is the only superhero character to have AIDS. If there are any more, I guess let me know. But I don't know why you got to do him like that. It's pretty dirty. But other than that, as far as actual accessories for this figure go, he has a pair of open hands. He has a pair of grip hands, one of which is holding his Hawkerang, or at least it was until it almost fell out there, which I do wish he had two of. I'm not gonna lie, I wish he had two of those. We also have his Wolverine claws, which I'm half tempted to display him with, as opposed to his actual fist hands, because they look a little small. We have an unmasked head. If I'm not mistaken, he is an African-American gentleman, so another African-American superhero for the shelf. And then we have all these different arm attachments. So we got this blade and this grapple hook. That's pretty cool. And then we have this shield, which does have a tendency to fall off, but I'm sure you can make it work. And then we have the base, and all these Image Comics figures are going to come with. I suppose they can kind of fit together, but they don't really work like that. And then on top of that, you do also get this art book, which is pretty cool. Just open it up to a random page here and give you a little tease, because it's not a comic, so there's no story. And then there's a back. That's nice. I wish the Savage Dragon came with one of those, but it is what it is. But, you know, for 50, 60 bucks, you could do a lot worse. Spawn didn't come with this much stuff. They could have given you a freaking textbook with Spawn images with that figure. And, like I said, Savage Dragon also doesn't come with that much. So, everyone's like, oh, this ain't worth the price, this ain't the price. Yeah, that might be true, but it's more worth it than, like, every other Elite Edition I've looked at anyways. So, taking a look at Shadowhawk here. He's really cool. I dig him a lot. He uses the Alan Scott Green Lantern body, ironically. I'm assuming the biceps, the lower arms, the hands, most of the legs, the midsection, the diaper, which does have the Alan Scott belt underneath, which I'm not a fan of that per se. I think they should have just given him a new... Gonna go out of the way to give him a new belt. Just give him a new crotch with the belt attached to it. But it is what it is. Or just make a generic diaper and always have the swap out belt to begin with. Really nice head sculpt. He's got his big Wolverine ears. Those ears! I don't know, man. I dig this figure a lot. I think he's cool. You know, it's not the armored up version of Shadowhawk that I prefer, but it's still freaking cool. It's Shadowhawk, man. In this day and age, the only Shadowhawk figures we got are the really old one, which, don't worry, I have the really old one. I will bring them up for comparison later. But we have that one. We have the Image Comics, is it 10-year anniversary Shadowhawk, which is more of a staction. Which, speaking of that wave, that also had the infamous 10th anniversary Spawn. And Ripclaw, who I hope we see in this line. It had a Savage Dragon too, by the way. That said, the only other Shadowhawk that I know of, and there were two versions, one was more black, and then the other one had basically this. the silver and black. That was from Shocker Toys, and unless you're willing to drop cheddar on that, I'd say just get this one. Probably be able to get this one, but as far as articulation goes, his head, really good double ball peg. He can look all around, he can look up, he can look down, he can tilt side to side. That's cool. Shoulders can pop out, back down, they can rotate around. He's got that beautiful butterfly, which, not so beautiful because it does get stuck on the torso. But I imagine if you let this sit long enough and maybe heat it up, you can probably get this to where it will warp the torso a little more open, making that a lot easier to turn. Because this side on mine has a tendency to get stuck right around here. You can see it's almost sticking out a bit because of that. Which, yeah, that does kind of suck, but, you know, his shoulders aren't loose, so that's a plus, right? Yeah, he's a bit of a chore to futz with. But once you get him situated, he is ready to rock. There we go. That's a little better. It's a little less sticky outy there. That said, he does have double jointed elbows, ball hinge wrists that will rotate, hinge, and swivel. He's got a diaphragm joint that will kick back this far, forward this far, not too bad. Can rotate a little bit there and tilt a little bit. Same with the waist. The belt, again, it does have a tendency to hike up because it is a separate piece, but you just push it back down. I'm tempted to heat this up. See if I can push it down a little bit more so it stays in place. I feel like this should be locked in, but at any rate, popping his arm out. His hips can kick out, back down. He does have a little bit of a thigh cut in here, like some versions of this body. Just a touch, though. It's not a ton, but I can kick it in a little bit, so that's cool. He can kick forward and back. He's got a double knee. And then he does have a ball hinge at the foot that will rotate, hinge, whoop, and then he does have a pivot and a toe joint. Whoop, there we go. So yeah, this guy has potential to be figure of the year. I'm not gonna BS you. I wanted a Shadowhawk that's like fully articulated with all the bells and whistles for some time, and while I prefer the armored look, you know, you can add the weapons and stuff to this guy and make him somewhat armored, and he is already kind of armored. It's just a little bit more light. But this is probably the more iconic version of the character, if I had to guess. If I'm not mistaken, there have been a total like 2 or 3 different Shadowhawks. This guy, after he dies and is resurrected, and then there's another guy that takes up the mantle later, and that might be the all-black suit with less silver accents, but don't quote me on that. I'm not a Shadowhawk genius, but that's just my guess. But yeah, this figure rocks. I like it. If you don't, that's fair. I mean, it is a pricey figure, but you can do a lot worse from this company. And its name is the Lich King from World of Warcraft. So, yeah, I'm still salty about that. Even though I did get a refund, I'm still salty about that. But, putting him there, I think it is now time that we move right along and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, and as promised, here we have good old Shadowhawk alongside the only other figure I have of this character, which again I think is the same alias, just more armored up. This is the vintage 1995 Ultra action figure of Shadowhawk with the big arse guns that are a pain in the neck to deal with. He's got some shoulder cannons like War Machine, He's so ridiculously 90s, it's not even funny. He even has a pistol on his hip. I think it's his right hip. It's ridiculous, this figure, but I love it all the same. I can't remember if I got him loose or in box, but he's been in my vintage Spawn display for the longest time, and, well, here we are. Now we got this new one, and I gotta be honest, I would like to see this armored one, like, modernized and fully articulated. That would be sweet. Maybe not for 60 bucks, though. That said, also for 60 bucks, we have the Elite Edition Spawn, the only other character we have in this Image Comics Founders line thus far. Well, only one I have. I know people got Savage Dragon. I don't have him yet as the time I'm recording this, so, you know, sue me, but there's Spawn. Again, I really feel like Shadowhawk is more worth the money than Spawn, especially since they kind of botched the cape. It's not hunkered down to anything, and it's just kind of a pain in the nuts to deal with. But I'll give him an A for effort with Spawn. Like, that Lich King can go to HE double hockey sticks for all I care. But moving him aside. Move old school Shadowhawk aside. So we could bring in our two regulars. We got the Mythic Legion's brother Manibelith. Right here. And the infamous current 11 Spawn, who probably is a little bit taller, but not enough to be towering, especially if we count the Wolverine ears, even though that is technically cheating. So, with that being said, it's time now that we wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, at the end of the day, I gotta tell you, I don't know what everyone's talking about when they say that this figure is not worth the price of admission. Yes, it's expensive. It is. But he comes with more than Spawn. Spawn came with useless chains that are really only good if you have Marvel Legends Ghost Riders hanging around. He didn't come with an even set of hands. And while he did come with an alt head, he was shown to come with much, much more, and that was not in the box. Shadowhawk here has all the hands you could possibly want, multiple attachments for his arms, and on top of that, he does have Hawkerang, which it would have been nice to get a second one of those, and that's really my only gripe with this figure. He doesn't have a second Hawkerang, and yeah, the price is a little steep, but to me at least, it feels a little bit more worth it than any of the other Elite editions I've looked at on this channel, just because of piece count. Yeah, he reuses some parts, but he put a lot in the box. Heck, they even gave you a book, too. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.